going to add to 2 million.
Big flag now, amazing. Okay, so we're gonna get rolling then. So we've introduced ourselves to you. So we're gonna let you take it away.
Okay, well, thank you. Couple thoughts. So thank you everyone for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. My name is Claire Ireland. I work as the Director of Operations for the Vermont Association of Conservation Districts. And we're here this morning to talk about Vermont's 14 natural resource conservation districts. We've had a whole a lot of detailed information, but given the time, I'm just going to do a quick overview since I think this is the first time we're meeting several of you, and then just briefly mention our budget request for the year. Vermont's conservation districts were established by the Soil Conservation Act in 1939. We've been around a while, and we were really designed to be a conservation delivery system for the state of Vermont. The conservation districts are they're subdivisions of the state, and they operate as county level government entities, local government entities. They're composed of a board of 5 elected supervisors, and they are the ethos or the mission of the districts is intended to be local democratically driven, so very much bottom up government, and we are basically engaging with the community to tackle all nature of natural resource concerns. Initially, we were established to focus on soil and water concerns, but over the years that mandate has been really broadened to any natural resource issue. We'd be happy to talk more about some of our project areas, maybe at a later date and get really into the details of everything that we do. But broad overview, a lot of our mandate is to work directly with landowners to secure voluntary compliance with best practices on land management, as well as to complete projects that help with clean water, with the soil quality, with invasive species, with flood mitigation. So now we're starting to look into things around the wildfire mitigation, things like that. So very broad mandate to work with natural resources. I'm going to shift, just given the time, to just talking a little bit about our budget request. We do have a budget request for this year for $3 million. And that is a request to fund each of the 14 conservation districts, as well as our central state agency, which is called the State Natural Resource Conservation Council. Council is an agency of the state that is organized at the board and serves to provide oversight and guidance to the conservation districts. So that is our budget request for the year. We are going to be putting this forward to various committees. We're currently budgeted at $612,000, so this would be an increase. And we are looking for this support in order to meet our sort of bare operational and statutory needs. We would like to have at least one full-time equivalent position of staffing per district, as well as at least 2 full-time equivalents of staffing at our state agency. We believe that's really essential because we're facing a lot of demand for what we do as the state is looking at all these natural resource concerns. We already do a lot of work in that area, and one of the sort of pain points for us is this basic capacity in order to grow and expand our services more broadly. So we're happy to be here, happy to talk more in detail. We do have detailed information that we've provided. It's on the website. I'd encourage you to look at that. It goes into our sort of program areas, as well as more detail about our budget request. And then we'd be happy to come answer any questions. I would just say, as you're thinking through a lot of topics this session, we do want to, make sure that the conservation districts are in the back of your mind. We'd like to be a part of, the solution of whatever issues that you're tackling this year. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
Can you talk about you get federal funding as well?
We do. So the majority of our budgets, both at the district level and at the council level, is comprised of competitive grant funding. We don't receive any direct operational funding from federal level. So this budget request that we have for $3 million is our only source of general operational funding. We don't have taxing authority. We don't have any fund established for us at the state level. And the federal government, we do leverage a lot of federal grant awards because we have a very close tie with the the Natural Resource Conservation Service under the USDA. So because we work so closely with them, we do end up funneling or channeling a lot of that money here into the state.
And what does your current budget mean in terms of your ability to provide services versus what the eventual free would mean?
So
Like right now, you talk about having a person on the ground in each county, for instance.
Yeah.
What's the status now?
So it varies widely, district to district. Our smallest district has not, maybe about a half-time position. Our largest district does have maybe about, I don't know, maybe 8 to 9 full-time equivalents of staffing. That's widely variable, but most of the staffing is funded by competitive grants, and many of these are short-term grants, year-over-year application. So it's always a little bit of a tenuous situation as we're putting together our budget. So the primary impact of the $3 million request is to create a stable sort of backbone of staffing for the districts. And it would allow our district managers, I should have introduced them, we have 2 district managers here today who can answer some of the operational questions. Dan is with the Winooski District, Hillary is with Holding Meadowy. What this funding would do, it would free up their time to work more on the bigger pictures and expanding the programming of the district and providing better direct response to constituents, rather than always being this sort of chasing the grant cycle. But then from that backbone, we would still be applying to all of these federal grant sources and bringing that money here to build our programming. So grants would be for programming as opposed to this sort of operational backbone.
Yeah, good.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking at your slides, so I'm looking at my computer, but and I met you in a different capacity, and I'm trying to understand. It seems like a lot of the work that you're doing obviously is super important, and I'm sure you're doing a great job at it. And it also seems that there are other entities that are also doing very similar work. The regional planning commissions are doing some of the same work. The Agency of Natural Resources and their various programs are doing some of the same work. There are other entities that are doing the emergency management, various entities are, and I'm curious, you know, what makes you different, and is there a way to align and better manage the same kind of regional work that's happening out there?
Thank you for that question. Yes, so I would say we are I guess take the RPCs for example. The conservation districts are a work on, again, created in 1939 with the direct mandate to work with landowners primarily. Landowners as individuals are our primary constituents. So, RPCs I view as working a lot with municipalities as their primary constituency, whereas we are very much, individual landowners of any type, which could be private landowners, could be municipalities. We do serve municipalities in their capacity as landowners. It could be federal and state agencies who are landowners, it could be private businesses who are landowners. So we have a focus that is very much on the land base and the natural resource base as our primary mission and focus. And the individuals are very much our primary sort of constituency. We do work very closely with all the other groups in this sort of realm of natural resource. So we do work very closely with the RPCs, with the watershed groups, with the agency partners. When it comes to the agencies, like for example, NRCS and our state agencies, the Agency of Agriculture and ANR, we end up partnering very closely, and in many ways we are sort of the boots on the ground aspect of some of that programming. So for example, the Agency of Agriculture rolled out a payment for performance, which is about managing phosphorus input into and giving landowners and farmers credit for what they're already doing in reducing phosphorus levels. We're the ones that the Agency of Ag went to and said, can you help us with this program? We don't have the staffing. Can you, help us with the data entry, with the data collection, with helping to manage the overall, this program on, in conjunction with the Agency of Agriculture. We do some similar, kind of relationship with ANR, particularly along the lines of clean water funds. We fit in with like the tactical basin planning, that everyone does to, establish the goals for phosphorus reduction in the Lake Champlain. So we do, a lot of sort of the boots on the ground outreach. We then are also the project implementers. So in our capacity of working with the landowners, we're the ones, in many cases, who are identifying the projects to do, developing those projects, and then sort of shepherding them through to final completion, that whole continuity of project management, in order to sort of make some of this money, turn into actual impacts on the ground. So I hope that answers, I know there's some work
Does.
probably to do around swim lanes, but yeah.
Swim lanes.
Oh.
Oh, that was not literal swim lanes.
No.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems to me that there's, I mean, that just the way that the sort of programmatic function in the field is very confusing for hunters and for even us who are trying to manage it, and you who are trying to manage it. And it's just continually frustrating to me. And just another sort of origin story question, were you were created, or not you, but your organization was created in the 1930s. Did it come out of the sort of Dust Bowl legislation of soil conservation and?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, so, we were created as a direct response to the Dust Bowl. And I do think it's kind of an interesting point of American history where all 50 states, as well as every territory, independently adopted the legislation to create the conservation districts in sort of recognition of this important local role of, getting conservation work done on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and I have more questions myself actually, but I'm gonna hold off on them for now, because we're gonna have you all back, and thank you for your flexibility. My apologies again that we did not get to have your full presentation today. But it is your Senator Hardy's question is just reminding me that, like, yeah, having some kind of a visual of like, this is our swim lane, this is A&R's lane, this is their, you know what I mean? Like, just being able to separate these things and how everybody is working together, but distinctly is could be useful. So thank you so much. And we'll see you back in a few weeks.
So we really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, and so now we have our legislative council to come and tell us about the land use review board. We are as we do interviews of appointees, some of the newly appointed folks are on our list, and so it'd be good to have an overview of what their role is, what the legislation that created them. So anyway, this is why we've invited Ellen here to come tell us about this. All right, I'll turn it over. We've met everybody. We don't need to do it. Do we need to introduce?
I was legislative council, so I haven't been in here yet. I was just here for Clean Heat last week at the joint hearing. So I am the legislative council attorney that handles land use, energy, and climate change. So in the past, I've spent a lot of time in this committee, including working on this legislation that created the LURB, the Land Use Review Board. It was Act 181 of last year. And so honestly, Senators Watson and Bonner probably could do this for me. But I was going to review the qualifications for the board, although I can answer other questions about them. But Act 181 last year made the Land Use Review Board out of what has been the Natural Resources Board, which is the governing body for the Act 250 agency. So, or rather, it is the group of people that has oversight over the law we call Act 250. So last year in Act 181, the legislation professionalized and formalized the board, because previously the Natural Resources Board had been one full-time chair with 4 members who were essentially volunteers. They were paid per diem payments, but only when they actually met with the board, which was once a month-ish. sometimes a few more than that a month, sometimes less than that. And so the chair of the board was full-time, but the other members were not. So in establishing that as a professional board that would have full-time position, 5 full-time positions, they updated the qualifications required to be on the board. Previously, it had just sought people who had experience, expertise, or skills related to the environment and land use. But the bill last year added some additional things to that list. And so this language is in 10 VSA 6021, the board, and this is section 2 of the bill. But so they're looking for people who have experience, expertise, or skills related to environmental science, land use law, policy planning and development, community planning. And all candidates shall have a commitment to environmental justice. Additionally, and it is a full-time position, unlike the previous one where only required the occasional commitment. The makeup of the board was also to ensure to the greatest extent possible the racial, ethnic, gender, and geographic diversity of the state, with no 2 members residing in the same county. So it has to be people who have that expertise, but who are not all just from one county. Additionally, in section 3 of the bill, which is 10 VSA 6032, the members of the nominating committee, so the board, people would apply to be on the board. Applications for being a board member were then reviewed by the nominating committee, which was made up of 4 legislators and 2 members of the executive branch, who then would review the candidates, meet with the candidates, and then submit qualified names to the governor. On their list of things to look for in candidates, there's some additional language that look at asking if they had integrity, impartiality, work ethic, and availability. So those are qualifications that are generally sought also from applicants to be a judge. Because originally there was a vision that this board would be a quasi-judicial body.
Question? Yeah.
So we have a commitment to environmental justice, kind of an arbitrary. Is there a specifics about what they're looking for, what you just said?
In regards to environmental justice,
As a qualification,
so I would not characterize it as arbitrary. I would say that it was in the same paragraph as those with experience, expertise, and skills. But the phrase was commitment to environmental justice, and so all of those things sought in that paragraph came out in the application process. So candidates were asked as part of their application, and I then don't know, but strongly suspect as part of the interview process, they were asked to address what their commitment was to environmental justice. When the legislation was passed last year, there was a discussion that environmental justice is a newer field than some of the other areas sought, and so requiring expertise in environmental justice did seem like a high bar. But also that first list that's in 6021 asks for expertise in one or more of those categories, and this is all members of the board shall have a commitment to environmental justice. So it's something all of them should be able to address and what they want to see. And then as I sort of started when I alluded to when I began, is that both Senator Watson and Senator Bongart were part of the nominating committee who looked at the candidates and looked at these requirements.
So we've met all of these. Thanks. Great. Any other questions about land use review board, either their charge or the right board? Yes, go ahead.
Are they, the district people exists, right? So this is just the state level.
Yes.
Board. So the local district level people, again, all the overlaps and regional government drives me bananas. That they're the ones that are like enforcing or hearing about Act 250. Does the state level board do appeals or how does that? No, okay.
No, so yeah, so Act 250 is a sort of distributed structure in that applications for a permit go to the 9 district commissions, so the local commission based on what county you're in.
Yeah,
The board, the land use review board, their only authority is administrative oversight of the Act 250 law and the staff of that, which does include the enforcement officers and the attorneys that work for the agency. Additionally, they have authority to, there's a new process for reviewing Tier 1A applications and for approving regional plans. So they did not, the legislation that you all passed last year did not give them the authority to hear appeals. So they're not really a quasi judicial board. They have some approval authority over 2 discrete areas.
and they don't oversee the local boards, right?
They do,
Oh, they do. Do
yes.
they have any role in putting members on the local boards?
No,
Okay,
the district commissioners are all appointed by the governor.
okay. Okay,
Training might be my area.
training,
Would be,
okay.
Next. Did you mention tier 3, they're volunteer, did you?
No, I didn't. So additionally, well, so Tier 1A, you gave them the authority to review and approve or disapprove the applications for Tier 1A. Additionally, there are a few different sections of Act 181 that require rulemaking on specific subjects, including Tier 3 and the road rule, as well as forest blocks. So there's a few different rulemakings that will need to happen, and those are from the board itself.
and some of those processes are directly laid out in the law, and they're gonna take a lot of time, a lot of public engagement. So, well, they'll be busy for a few years anyway.
And those rules are gonna end up shaping how Vermont
Yeah.
looks. So
Yeah.
it's pretty critical that we get it right. Great, any other questions? Okay. Super, thank you so much. Okay, and so at this point, we are waiting for Council Michael Grady to come
He's scheduled for 11.
yeah, so we're a little ahead of time, which is amazing.
Yeah.
So maybe we can take just a 2-minute break until we've got Ledge Council with us. Okay. Yeah, it's big.
Do you
So happy to talk.
I'm having trouble with
Any of
that.
us, these questions. Do you think that the new structure provides more consistency?
And I think I remember that.
I have trouble
Probably
being
wise.
At some point, it's probably gonna have to be, we're just gonna be talking about the mission and their. Okay, that's what you expected, okay, yeah. So. Wow.
I'm having trouble muting the live stream, just so you know.
That's okay.
So it'd be nice.
Yes, be very nice. I don't.